Hello everyone, good morning. Can anyone please confirm am I audible or not? Yeah. Okay then. Last class what we discussed? We discussed about how to deploy this code in AWS Amplifier, right? Okay. Now the next topic is like this is your website. At the time of loading this website, can anyone tell how many components has to load? How many components has to load? General. The header one has to load or not? Why? Because header should be visible to the end user. Header one has to load. The next one, menu has to visible, so that menu component has to load. The next one is what? Footer has to load. The next one, home has to load. Overall, 1 2 3 4 component has to load at first time load. Now inspect this one, go to source. Okay, if you see, Control P is the shortcut to find the files. Okay, see header, yeah, header.js loaded in the browser. The next one, footer component also loaded. The next one, menu component also loaded. The next one, home component, yeah, home component also loaded. But at this point of time, both component is required or not required. Okay, that about component has to load or not at this point of time. Okay, in this particular case, the about component has to load or not required. Okay, the about component not required, right? Why? Because home, I am the home tab. Okay, when my about component has to load at the time of clicking on the about page, then my about component has to load. But at first time load itself, my about also loaded, as well as my contact also loaded, as well as my service also loaded. All components loaded or not. Think inside my about component, in the about tab, I written like 1,000 lines of code. In the contact tab, I written like 1,000 lines of code. In the service, I written like 1,000 lines of code. At the first time load, these 3,000 lines of code is required to load inside the browser. About contact and service, these 3,000 lines of code is required to load in the browser. Obviously, no. Okay, but it's loaded, right? If it is loaded like this, then the time it is something impact on your browser performance or not. Loading is little bit, it takes some time, right? Okay, how you can say, okay, yeah, this website is good. The end user, how my end user is going to decide, like, yeah, this is like, okay, good website, this is like, okay, not that much. Okay, how my end user is going to tell means based on that particular website performance is nothing but loading, right? Okay, just I open one website like this. If it is like immediately opened, I can say like what, yeah, this website is very fast, it's very good, like that we can say or not. Yes or no? Okay. If the website is like loading, continuously loading, then the time my end user decide like, okay, what is this website like this? He can, okay, he decide like, yeah, this website is not that much good like that or not. Simply my end user concluded like, if it is loaded very fast inside the browser, then the time he can say like, okay, so this about contact and service, okay, these three tabs contains much code. Okay, then the time I don't want to load at first time. Okay, when it is load, when you want me to load that one at the time of clicking on the about, then yes, obviously my about has to load. At the time of clicking on the contact, obviously my contact has to load. But first time I don't want to load this one or not. Okay, but it's loaded. It's loaded. Okay, if you written the code like this, then the time, yeah, okay, this is on the proof. My components and everything is loaded or not, where you loaded these components inside my menu component or not. Okay, see this here in the menu.jsx. If you observe here, these are components we are loading or not. These are the components we are loading or not. Okay, from where you get these components? By importing like this or not? By importing like this or not? If you import directly like this at first time load only, whatever the components are there, all components will load inside the browser. Okay, so that instead of import like this, we have one more concept is there, that is like a dynamic import. Okay, that one we can say like dynamic import. Okay, dynamically you can, okay, import that particular component. Dynamically means whenever you want, then only you can import it, you can load it. Whenever you want, then only you can get that component and then you can load inside the browser. Okay, till then just wait. Till then don't load inside the browser. Why? Because Okay, if you loaded, that is impact on my performance. Okay, so that I don't want this import. Okay, I don't want to get these components by using like a normal import and export. Okay, import like this. Okay, I want to import these components through dynamic import. Okay, so how we can import these components by using dynamic import concept? The syntax is like something different. Okay, just we'll see that one. Okay, this concept we can say like a lazy loading also. Lazy loading is nothing but early lazy. Okay, immediately those components at first time load not load. Okay, lazy loading is nothing but whenever you need that component required. Okay, whenever you need that component, then only that particular component is going to load inside the browser or not. We can say like a lazy loading. Understand or not? So how we can these four components I don't want to import like this. I don't want to import like this. So that can be commented all these things. Okay. Now if I run this one, okay, which error you will get? Which error will you get? Which error will you get? See, this is my home component is there. My home is not, so that my home is not defined like this. You may get an error or not. My home is not defined, about is not defined, contact is like not defined like that. So that you should have to get that home component or not through dynamic import now. So how we can means very simple thing. Here, home is not defined, about is not defined, contact is not defined, service is not defined. So can you get it? Okay, how we can get means, come on. We have one method called it the import is the method. Import is the method. Okay, import is the method. If you want to import the files into this particular menu.jsx dynamically, we are using which method? Import is the method, which take one callback function as an argument, which take one callback function as an argument. Okay, here you can pass your component wherever, from where you want me to get this component. Okay, from there you can get it. Okay, do you know this syntax? Do you know this syntax? What is this one? Now come here. Console. I have one function is there. I have one function is there. Function f1. Okay, it returns something. It returns something. Yeah. Okay. Can anyone write? Can anyone write this particular function? Equal arrow function for this particular function. Equal arrow function. Okay, how we can write? If I call my f1, see it returns me 10 or not. So equivalent arrow function simply you can write like this. That's it. Okay, what is the name of this one? f1. Okay, in your function, only one statement is there. There is no need to write these braces. Okay, so that I remove that braces. At the same time, if you place whatever the statement, that statement is treated like a written value. It treated like a written value. Now done. Can we write my f1? If I call my f1, it's like this or not? Okay. Now the same concept we are going to use here. This is my import. Okay, can we get that? Dynamic, the dynamic import in React or lazy load. Now come down. Okay, this is the one. This is the one. Now come here. Yeah, can I copy and paste here? Where is that? This is the one, right? Okay. The method called as a lazy is the method. First of all, you have to get that lazy method. That lazy method contains, my lazy method takes one function as an argument. Okay, that function, in that function you have to pass this import. Okay, syntax is like this. This is not the one. This is not the one. See, lazy is the method which take one callback function as an argument. Here you can import it. Okay, how you can import? From where you want me to import? From here you want me to import or not? Yes, you can place that one. That's it. Now it returns me what? It returns me what? Okay, it returns me whatever the exported thing is there from this particular path, that one it's going to return. What it is going to export from this particular path, home component or not. So that this is the method. Any method returns something, then the time can be hold with one or one variable, not argument, one variable. So that that variable name can I give like a home. Okay, do you want me to change this home in future? Okay, I don't want to change it. So that can I make it like a constant? Why I don't want to change it? It's a component. If I allow him to change, if I put like my home equals to 10, okay, then the time is my home is acting like a component. No, right? I don't want to allow him to reassign again. Why? Because it's a component. I don't want to change that. So that can I make it like a constant? Can we make it as like a constant? Okay, this is the way we are going to import the home component through dynamic import. Okay, this is like a normal import, this is like a dynamic import. So the same way can we do remaining for remaining three components also. Okay, right here, my lazy is the method which is coming from where? My lazy is the method which is coming from React library. React library. Anyone tell? My React library export default is like a React export like lazy or not. Why? Because here it's a combination. Okay, any file exported something without default, we are going to import with the destructuring format. Okay, any file is going to export with default, then the time we can import it without any braces or something or not. In this particular file, two things are there. Export default is this one, export is this one. Okay, my lazy is the method which take one callback function as an argument that returns the component from this particular path. Now can we view that path? So finally my lazy method returns me whatever it is going to return from this path, that one is going to return. So that what it's going to return? My component. So that what is the name? Any name you can put it, that is the variable. Okay, same like this. Can I keep all these things here? Okay, this is like a contact. Okay, this is the contact path. Then just copy and paste here. The next one is like a service. Okay, this is my service path. Done. Okay, now come here. Now come here. Can I refresh my page? Can I refresh my page? Okay, this is some error. Can you read that error? Can you fix it? Now see here. A React component suspended while rendering, but no fallback UI was specified. Okay, add suspense and fallback component higher in the tree provided a loading indicator or placeholder to display. Okay, this is the thing what is going to represent this error message means. Okay, where you are loading your components, here you are loading or not. Here you are loading or not. Through what? Dynamic import or not? Through dynamic import. See here, it's not a mandatory. Okay, you can put this one or not, it's not a matter. Okay, through dynamic import or not. Through dynamic import, if you import any component, okay, where that components are loading, that component should be inside another component called as a suspense is the component. Suspense is the component. Now, can you come here? Can we get that suspense here? Can we get that suspense here? Suspense. Okay, now where you are loading the components which are imported dynamically, here or not. So that can you keep that suspense? Can you keep all these things inside a suspense one? My suspense component has one mandatory attribute is there, that is called as a fallback is the one. Fallback. Here the fallback, why we go for fallback means, okay, just I'm going to write like some text. Okay, this is displaying when we are going to see. Okay, when this text is going to display, we'll see that one. Now this is the way we are going to import dynamically the components. Okay, once you loaded, where you loaded, okay, that particular component has to keep inside a suspense component. Okay, now come here. Can you check at first time load? Yes. Okay, this is my first time load. How many components you want me to load? Okay, how many components? Header has to load, menu has to load, home has to load, and folder. Because these are already loaded. That means that is visible to the any other listener, but that should be load. Okay, now can you check? My home is there. Yes. My header is there. Yes. My menu is there. Yes. My footer is there. Yes. Above, not there. Is my about loaded? In the past, my about is there, but now it's not there. Okay, my contact, if you observe here, my contact is there, not there. My service, is my service is there, not there. Understand or not? So that now my about and contact and my service not loaded. Okay, so this particular browser, how much time will take to load this content? Okay, 4 components is loading now. Okay, in the past, like 4 plus 3, 7 components loaded. Okay, which one is the better one? 4 components always better one or not? My home component is already loaded. My home component already loaded or not? Yes or no? Okay. Now, if I click on the about, what you're expecting? What you're expecting? Can anyone tell? If I click on the about, okay, my about component has to load or not? My about component has to load or not? Now, if I click on the about, see here, one text you can find. If I click on the about, see, there has one text is there loading. The text is coming from where? Here or not? Why? Because dynamically you are loading this about is but it takes some time, right? It takes some time. Okay, in between you have to give the proper message to the end user. Okay, my about component is loading like this. Whatever the text you specified here, the text is going to be visible to the end user. The text is going to be visible to the end user. Once my component is ready to load, then that my text is like disabled and my component is going to enable. Okay, now my component is going to mount, you can say. Now tell me, inside the browser, how many components are there now? Inside the browser, how many components? Okay, header, footer, menu, about is the common one. See, my about is loaded or not? Okay, still my contact not loaded. Still my service also not loaded. Okay, what about the home? Can anyone tell? What about the load? What about the home? What about the home? Is my home is like unmounted? My home still there? Already, if it is loaded in the browser, then why I need to unmount? Already there. Okay, keep it. Whenever you want, immediately it is going to load or not. Okay, there is no need to get dynamic. Already loaded in the browser, just you can take it instead of unmounting. Got it or not? It is completely worked at first time load, you can say. First time load. Okay, in first time load, which components are required? Okay, just load that components, remaining all components, keep it aside. Whenever you want, then only can get it. Okay, now if I click on the contact. Okay, this is all the proof, right? Inside the browser, see my contact is loaded or not loaded. My contact component is there. My contact component is not there. How we can confirm is my component is loaded or not? Means this is all the proof, right? My contact related component is not there. My service, okay, my service component is not there. My about component loaded or not loaded? About.css, about.js, about.css, okay, about.jsx, about.js, all 4 components, 4 files loaded or not? Yes or no? Okay, if I click on the service now see, yes, now my service should load. My service should be there. Yeah, my service should be there. Okay, simply whenever I want, then only I want to get that particular component, I want to mount it. Before that, I don't want that components. That's it. The main purpose. Understand or not? The syntax is like, can I keep these things here? Can I keep these things here? Can I keep this one here? Okay. Okay, now see here. Import in body of the module. Okay, reorder to top. Okay, here the thing is that import statement, okay, should always on the top. Okay, you create one variable here. You created one variable here. After the variable creation, you should not import any statement. My import statements always on the top. After that, you can create any variables like this. It's a variable. It's not like import statement. Got it or not? Okay, that is only the error message. Now see, if I reloaded this page. Now my service is loaded. Is my home is going to load? No, my home is not there. Now if I click on the home, this particular fallback attribute is there, right? This fallback attribute has one of the text like a loading. This text is visible where? Here. Okay, why it's going to be visible means at the time of clicking on the home, I want to take that home component, I want to download, I want to get that home component, okay, from that particular path. It may take some time. How much time it will take, I don't know. That is depends upon your content. Okay, it's take like 2 seconds, for example. That 2 seconds you have to tell to the end user, okay, something is going on in the background, like loading text is going to display. See here, home. If I click on the home, if I click on the about it, it's like very fast. There is no content, nothing is there, right? Okay, one line of code is there, so that is not taking that much time. Got it or not? This is the way we are going to handle lazy loading. Okay, in your real time, if you are working with routing like this, one page to another page, navigation is there. Okay, just get that components through dynamic import only. Don't import that particular components directly like this. Directly like this. Don't import it. Okay, in your application, you are going to handle a routing. You are going to handle a routing. Okay, that time don't import your components directly like this. Import your components through lazy loading. And just okay here it's like normal, it's like a normal, just you are going to add one of the component, just place your loading components, okay, inside a suspense one. That's it. Other than that, nothing. That is on the change here. Okay, here the import statements, just you are going to change it. So now onwards I want like this, not like this. Okay, okay, then perfect. Now come here, I want to add some more topics here. Okay, I want to discuss one of the topic called is higher order components. Higher order components. So that I want one more tab here. Can anyone tell if you want to add one more tab, what changes are required? What changes are required? Where exactly do you want me to do the changes? Where exactly do you want me to do that changes? In which file? I want to add one more. I want to add one more tab here. In which file you want me to change? Here, these are the menu items or not. So can I add one more menu item here? Yes. Now I want to add one more menu item here. Yeah. What is my menu item? Okay, just you can write like HOC, higher order components. The concept is like higher order components. Why we go for higher order components, I will tell. Now, if my path is like higher order component, if my path is like HOC, okay, then that time for that particular path you should have to load one component or not. You should have to load one component or not. So that mapping you should have to write inside this. Okay, which type of routing you are using? Which type of routing? How many types of routings are there? One is like with hash, another one is like without hash. With hash, okay, that with hash routing handled by which component? Hash router. Without hash handled by which component? Browser router is the component. In future we are going to discuss that one. Okay, leave it for now. Okay, now tell me, my path name is like what? HOC, so that path has to be here. Which component do you want me to load? HOC component, so that can create one component inside the source folder. Okay, so that just open the terminal here, open in terminal. Okay, if I click on this one, directly it is going to open in that particular folder only, source folder only. Now see this, it's open inside the source folder or not. So directly you can create your component here. Okay, how you can create a component? Create React component. What is the component name? Okay, HOC, higher order component is my component name. Okay, it gives me some error. What is that? Create. Okay, spelling. Okay, just from here. Yeah, my higher order component loaded. That means create here. Can we get this component through dynamic import? Okay, how you can import? Lazy is the method. Lazy is the method which is common arguments. One callback function is an argument. That function is going to return a component from this particular path or not. Which path? My HOC is the folder. Okay, inside this index.js is the file. It is going to export your component or not. Now, finally, my lazy method returns what? Returns one component. That component is name is like HOC. Whatever the name you want, you can put it. Now come here. Can we add the component here? HOC. HOC. Now come here. Now if I refresh the page, see my this one. Yes, my component loaded or not. Okay, now my question is, you can ask the question like, hey, why we go for HOC? What is the need of higher order components? That is the question. Okay, what is the need of higher order components? First of all, okay, I have one requirement is there. Just complete that requirement. After that, we can come to know like what is the problem with this particular one. Okay, whatever you written the code, there has something like something wrong with that particular code. Okay, how we can overcome that particular thing, we'll see that. What's wrong with this code? First of all, find it. How we can overcome that particular one by using HOC, we can see. First of all, do my requirement. My requirement is very simple thing. Okay, just okay, very simple thing. Now say this. My requirement is this one. I have one button is there here. One button. This is the button. Okay, somebody is clicking this button. Okay, if anybody click this particular button, how many times he clicked, that particular count we are going to place inside the button only. He clicked me. Okay, 0 times. 0 times. This is the first time load. My button should be like this. Button content should be like this. First time load. Now if I click on this one, okay, then the time he clicked me 1 time. Okay, if I click again, he clicked me 2 times. Like this, keep on changing my button content. Keep on changing my button content based on the button click. Based on the button click. That is one thing. The next one text, normal text, H1 element has some text. Okay, the text is like this. He over me 0 times. He over me 0 times. It's a text, that is a button. Now if I put my cursor here, you hover that particular text so that my count has to increment. If I put my cursor here again, my count has to increment like this. If I click on the button, my count has to increment. That is one functionality. If I hover, then my count has to increment. That is one more functionality. That's it. This is my simple requirement. Okay, so that I'm asking you like, this is one functionality which is related to button. This is one more functionality which is related to one text. So that I need a clean separation. So what you want me to do? Can we create one component for this particular button requirement? Can we create one more component for this particular text hover requirement? Well, because my component is nothing but what? Just split your functionality. Okay, it's a simple piece of, make it as like pieces. Just wherever you want that piece, just you can use it. Just you can load it. So that can we create 2 components first? Okay, one is like button click and another is like text hover. Okay, those 2 components which are related to, okay, these 2 components related to HOC, right? So that can we create inside HOC folder? Can we create inside HOC folder? That 2 components I want to use for higher order component functionality. Then that is why I need to write out of this particular HOC. If I write like out of your HOC, that is like common for my application. It's not for my application. This is for HOC only. So can we go to my HOC folder? Yes. Okay. Can we create our components? Okay, which component? BTN click is my component. Another component. Text hover is my another component. These 2 components can be loaded here. These 2 components can be loaded here. Okay, these 2 components can be loaded where? Inside my HOC. Inside my HOC. Where you want me to load? Inside this. Okay, can we load here? Okay, now my question is, can anyone tell? Do you want me to get these components through dynamic import or like direct import? Tell me. Okay, I want those 2 components. How you want me to load? Dynamic import is required or directly can I get like this? Import my BTN play from where? From my BTN folder, the file. Import my text to hover is my component from where? My text to hover is the file, my index is the, okay, text hover is the folder, my index is the file. Okay, dynamic import is required or not required? Okay, obviously it's not required. Well, you know, see this here. If my component is loaded dynamically, okay, here itself it stopped, right? Okay, my HOC is not loaded. Okay, then the type my HOC contains some of the components. Those components will load or not load? Will not load. Why? Because top level my HOC is not loaded. If I click on the HOC, then the type, whatever the components are there inside HOC, that should be loaded, so that okay, that one we can directly load it or not. Okay, the thing is, if I click on the service, okay, you are in the service phase. Okay, now my HOC is not there, HOC is not loaded. HOC is not loaded, is nothing, parent is not loaded, is nothing, but whatever the parent contains, that content also not load, right? Okay, whatever the button component and the next one is like text over component, those components will never load. Okay, if I click on this one, yes, my HOC dynamically loaded. Okay, in the HOC contains which content, that content also has to load or not, so that here not required. But so that my dynamic import has always at routing, okay, here itself, okay, which component based on the route it's going to load, that component should be load dynamically. Okay, inside the content is not a matter, not required also. Okay, now come here. Then I write like a button click. Okay, then I write like a text over. My two components loaded. Yes, button click and text over. Okay, but my view should not be like this. My view should be like this. My view should be like this. Inside my button click component, button should be there. Here text over should be there. What text should be there? My text should be this content. Okay, the text component has this content. Okay, write that content now. Go to button click component. Okay, this is my button click component. This is the JSX. I don't want this one. Can I remove this one? Can I write one button? Okay, here he clicked me 0 times. Okay, done. My button ready. Now text over component. Okay, this is my content. Okay, he over me 0 times. Yes, my content. Okay, my view ready. Yes, my view ready. Now can we concentrate on the functionality? Okay, how we can write? Can anyone guess? If I click on the button, then the time my count has to increment or not, so that this particular count should not be static or not, it should not be hard code or not, that should be a variable. That variable has to increment. Okay, that variable count, that variable initialized with 0 first, that count has to increment for every button click. That the changes, whatever the changes you made, okay, increment +1, that changes has to reflect within the DOM or not. These things we have to handle. First of all, click on the button. It's nothing but on click. Now write like on click. Can I write one method? Okay, this dot function. Okay, increment count dot. Can we bind here itself? No problem. You can bind it. Now come here. Now come to your button click.js. This is the textual component, so that here you can define that. Yes, done. The next one, this particular value should not be hard code, so that if you don't want to hard code, that value has to manage with one variable. Okay, which variable? Let, where, constant, state, this, props, refs. Okay, these many variables are there. Which one is the suitable one? The variable data has to change, that changes has to reflect within the DOM. Is nothing but obviously say state variable or not. So can we create one state variable here? Okay, where you want me to create the state variable? Okay, my state is the variable, okay, coming from React.component. If you want to represent this one, I need my current object this, so that any work if you have any work with this at first and load, that particular statement has to write inside the constructor or not, so that by this dot state my count is like 0 by default. Okay, that count can I keep here, that count can I keep here. How we can? This dot state dot count. Okay, done. Now can you come to this particular one at the time of clicking on the button? Okay, this particular count has to increment with 1 or not, so that can we update my set state. What's my count? My count equals to my current count plus 1 or not. Done. Now say this. Yeah, it's my requirement completed. Okay, as expected or not. So that can we write the same thing here itself. Okay, my text hover one. Okay, so now come here. This is my text hover.jsx. Okay, come on. It's not a on click. It's not a on click. Okay, the next one is what? It's not a on click. Okay, here you have to write an event for the H1 is like a hover event or not. Okay, so that can you write like on over. Okay, almost over. Yes, it's my event or not. Okay, now which method you want me to call? One of the method, whatever you return this one, does it the same functionality or not? So that this is the method or not. So I write this method here. Okay, method. So can you come here and use this method? Can we find it itself? Yes or no? This should not be hard code. So that can we create? Okay, can we create? Can we create one of the variable? Which variable you want me to create? Now come here, go here. This is my variable. So that copy this one. Can you go to my text hover? Can we create that variable? Yes, I created this variable. Now this variable data has to print here or not. So my this dot state dot I found is my data or not. Done. Now come here. Now see this. If I hover, it's working as expected or not. If I click on this one, yes, it's also working as expected or not. Here the thing is, if you observe, the functionality in my button click component is what? Okay, increment your count or not. Okay, the functionality inside my text store is what? Increment your count or not. Okay, here if you observe here, okay, if you observe here, in my button click component, see the functionality, increment the count. Increment the count. My state variable, you are incremented with what? 1 every time. This is a simple functionality. 1 line or 3 lines of code is there. But in future, for example, 1000 lines of code is there. Think like that. Here, the same code, okay, which code that is? Increment the count. The same code you written inside my text over also or not. Inside my text over also or not. Text over also or not. Okay, here the functionality is like what? Increment the count. Here also the functionality is like what? Increment the count. If the functionality is like same, then the time why I need to write that functionality multiple times at each and every component level. If my functionality is like same, okay, then the time why I need to write the same functionality related code in each and every component. In each and every component. Is it recommended one? Obviously, it's not a recommended one. Okay, simply you can say like it's a duplicate code, right? Okay, here also increment the count. Okay, it's a duplicate one. Okay, the same code you written here. Okay, the state variable and constructor. Okay, here also the state variable and constructor. You written the duplicate code or not? Okay, obviously my duplicate code is not a recommended one or not. So how I can overcome this problem? Now my HOC come into the picture. Okay, you understand the problem, right? You understood the problem, right? Okay, my problem is what? My problem is my components has some common functionality. Okay, that related code I don't want to write at a component level. Each and every component level I don't want to write it. Okay, so how I can proceed with the next level means just create one higher order component. How we can create, I will tell. Just create one higher order component. Just write the functionality in the higher order component. Just share that functionality across your components. That's it. Write only one time that functionality. Okay, use wherever you want. In which component you want, you can use it. Okay, now why you go for higher order component? If anyone asks the question, you can simply say like, okay, if you want to share the functionality across components, then you can go with what? Higher order components or not. If you want to share the functionality across the components, then you can go with what? Higher order components. So now tell me, what is how my higher order component is looks like? Okay, before that, can anyone tell me what is a higher order function? What is a higher order function? The function which take one more function as an argument, we can say like what? Higher order function or not. The function which take one more function as an argument, okay, returns one more function. Okay, I have a function is there. Function f1 is there, which take one function as an argument, okay, and returns one more function, and returns one more function like this, for example. Okay, return. Okay, so this the structure is like what? See here, this is my f1 function, which take how many arguments? One argument. What is the type of this argument based on the usage? Based on the usage, what is the type of that argument? Can anyone tell? What is the type of this argument? It's like a function. Okay, so that my f1 take one function as an argument. Okay, that returns also what? That returns also one more function or not. Okay, sometimes it may return, may not return, may return, may not return. So this one, now my f1 we can say like what? Higher order, and my a you can say like what? Callback function or not. My a we can say like a callback function or not. Here my f1 is a higher order function. Okay, now you can define the function which take one function as an argument returns one more function. We can say like what? Higher order function or not. Okay, now the function which take one component as an argument returns one more component. Then we can say like what? That component we can say like what? Higher order component or not. Okay, now here you take like a function returns one more function. Now we can say like what? Higher order function. Now it's take one component as an argument returns one more component. Then we can say like what? That is a higher order component or not. Let me say like what? Higher order component or not. So that can we write that higher order component? Okay, first it's like a simple normal function. Okay, you can say like take like one function first. Now this is the one, this is the one. Inside my HOC only, I'm going to write one more file, simple file. I'm going to write it. Okay, now here my HOC increment count higher order component dot chess dot chess. Okay, write one function first. Very simple. Constant increment count HOC open one and close one. Done. Open one and close one. Now here I'm going to keep like inside the file. If you want to use any component or something, that file should contains imported React. That file should contains React. Okay. In future, this component, this particular one acting like what? Higher order component. Then the time you take one component as an argument, returns one more component. That means you are going to play with what? Components or not. So inside the file, my React should be there or not. So that you can import it first. Okay. Now, this is my method. Okay, first treat like a function. This is a function. Okay. It's take one argument. Okay. Return one argument. Okay, here can be exported. Export default. Okay, increment count HOC. Can anyone tell? If anybody calls this particular function, he is going to pass one argument. Okay, he's going to pass one argument, is nothing but he's going to pass one value. Okay, if I give some value to this guy, what he's going to give it back? What he's going to give it back to me? The same value or not? That means is it impact anywhere? Okay, if I use this particular one, is it impact your result? Okay, my input and my output both are same or not? Okay, my input is like what? Yeah. My output is also like what? Yeah only or not? There is no impact, nothing. There is no impact, nothing. So that I want to use this one somewhere. Okay, see this. It's a button component. Okay, button click.js. Can we import it? Okay, how we can import? Import the name is like what? Increment count HOC. Copy this one. Okay, from see my higher order component not yet sorted. It's a simple JavaScript concept, more than that, nothing. Okay, where is that? Come back. My increment HOC. Okay, can anyone tell what is the type of this one? First step. What is the type? The highlighted for type is what? Okay, this file exported what? This file exported a function. Okay, so that you imported also what? Whatever he exported, that one only you can import, right? It's a function or not? This function, can anyone tell about this function? This function take one argument, okay, that returns the same value or not, same argument or not. So that whatever you pass, it gives the same thing or not. It gives the same thing or not. Now what I'm doing is, okay, just close this one. Okay, comment this one. Now I'm going to write like export default. Okay, if I write like this, okay, will it impact or not? This code will impact or not? I comment this one, I return this piece of code. Will it impact or not? This piece of code never impact. Why? Because see this. Export default, I am expecting button click. Okay, here increment count HOC, whatever you give, it gives same thing back or not. So that my increment count HOC, you gives button click. So that it also gives me what? The same button click or not. So finally export default, this part is what? Button click only. Export default, button click only, right? There is no impact, nothing or not. Yes or wrong? It's a simple JavaScript one. Forget wrong. It is, yeah, or thing as expected or not. Okay. Okay, there is no impact, nothing. Now come here. Okay, let's do some changes now. Now come here. Here what I'm doing is 10. Can anyone tell what is my output? Can anyone tell what is my output? Okay, see this. Come to my button click.js. You call this method, okay, by passing one component, one value, yes, one value passed. Okay, it returns me what? 10. So that export default, it's like what? 10 or not? Is my 10 is a component? Is my 10 is a component? Here, I'm expecting a button click, I'm using like a component. Here, export default to 10. Okay, now this particular file returns me what? 10. But this particular file I'm expecting, I am using like what? A component or not? My 10 is a component? No, right? Okay, so that it gives me like that particular 10 is not a component like this. It gives me some error. Okay, now come here. Now come here. Okay, element type is like invalid. Okay, you are expecting like a node format, but it's like what? It's like a 10. It's a number or not? Okay, see here. We are expecting a class or a function, but got a number. Or not? Yes or no? Okay. Okay, do multiple changes I'm doing. Okay, now come here. Class. First of all, tell me, it's a valid syntax or not? It's a valid syntax or not? Is it a valid syntax or not? Okay, if you observe here, see, I have a function is there. Inside the function, you can write, right? You can write anything. Okay, you can write one more function. You can write one more component. Whatever you want, you can write it. No problem at all. Obviously, it's a valid one. It's a valid one. Now see, if I call my increment count HOC by passing some value, what this particular component is going to return? This particular component is going to return what? Past this particular method returns me 10, but now it returns what? Count. My count is like what? My count type is what? The 10 type is a number. My count type is like component or not? Now come here, this particular one, right? Okay, tell me. Export default, this one is what now? The type, tell me. This one type is what? You called this particular increment count component by passing button click component, returns me a component or not? Which component? Count component. So that export default, which component you return? Count component, not this component, not button click component. Now this particular file returns me export which component? Count component or not? What my count component? Okay, if this file returns the count component, if I'm using this one, which component is going to load? Now my count component is going to load. My count component contains which line? Okay, which content? Sachin or not? So that wherever you import from this particular file, that particular one gives you a count component. If you load that particular one, okay, which component is going to load? Count component is going to load. My count component contains Sachin. Yes, my Sachin is there or not? Agreed. Yes or no? Now let me do one more change. Now come here. This is one okay, simple one argument. Now tell. Now tell. Now tell. Can anyone? What changed? This particular file returns me count component. That count component renders what? Renders your argument or not? Okay, finally my count component returns. Okay, count component renders what? Your argument only or not? So if you come here, now say this, You pass button click component. You pass what? Component is like a button click component. Returns what? Returns a count component is nothing but this one. My count component renders what again? My argument is nothing but a button click component or not. Finally, this is returns count component only. My count component render what? Rendered my argument or not. What is that argument? My button click only the argument or not. So that there is no change at all. Yeah. So this working as expected or not. Okay, still okay, we are not discussing about higher order functionality and everything. Okay, reusability of functionality is not yet done. Okay, so for good or not? So for good or not? Okay, functionality wise there is no change. So that can I write here also text over also? Okay, can I import this one? Import my text over from where? Not text over. Okay, increment. If you don't know that one, just you can put like x. Now come here, increment count HOC or not, so that you can put this one. Now my increment count HOC. Okay, take one argument. Take one argument. Okay, that function returns me one more component. That component returns whatever the argument. So that finally it returns the count, renders that argument component only or not. There is no change at all in your functionality and everything. Everything is working as expected or not. You have written extra piece of code, that's it. Okay, now come on. Can I close all these things? Close others. Save. Okay. Now come here. Increment count HOC. Okay, focus on this now. Now tell me. My component here, my component. Okay, maybe possible this tell me. This particular component may be what? Okay, if I'm using here, okay, my component, my argument is like what? Maybe button click component. Okay, if I'm using here, maybe text over component or not. Okay, possibilities. Okay, maybe my component is like a button click component. Maybe my component is like a text over component or not. Okay, perfect. Finally, this is like a component only. Why? Because you are passing one component as an argument. Perfect. Now this is the component. Maybe button click component, maybe text over component. Think it's a button click component. It's a button click component. Okay, just button click component. Think like that. Okay, we'll change that code. Count equals to 1. If I write like this, what it means? 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 You send some data to this particular button click component. If my button click component is like a class component, we can represent this data by using props or not. Agreed? Yes or no? Okay, now my button click component is like a class component, so that this particular data go to this particular component like a prop. So that how we can represent the data? We can represent the data like this dot props dot count or not. So that can I copy this one? Can I paste this? Okay, now this is the data. This is the data. This is the data. Go to possible components. Tell me. This data go to button click component. Okay, if you pass like a button click component, this data go to button click component. Okay, this data go to another component is like text over component or not. So that if my data go to button click component, how we can represent the data? Tell me. How we can represent the data? By this dot props dot count or not. See, one by one I'm going to replacing now. Okay, now this one I'm replacing. Okay, the next one. Go to my text over.jsx. Here, then we load it. My props. Okay, now see.